What does his text mean?
So frustrating.
Maybe he's just not that into me.
No, she really likes
I've
me.
always been bad
How
at
can I
flirting.
get her attention?
I'm ready for
I just
marriage.
want somebody to share my life.
Is this
relationship
relationship
going anywhere?
Modern Love Made Simple. This is Dates and Mates with Damona Hoffman.
Hello, lovers. Welcome to another episode of Dates and Mates. This is number 232. And today we are going to examine sexuality and gender identity. Is it fixed? Is it fluid? Is it changeable? How do you know if the way that you've been living your life and the way that you've been dating might be limiting your possibility of finding true love? I have two guests in studio, one who identifies as a transgender lesbian and another who is a pansexual male who will be sharing their stories. But first, I need to introduce my guest co-host, Carol Allen of loveisinthestars.com. Carol is an astrologer who steers the love lives of many women based on what is written in the stars. And she's also going to give us a fall love forecast at the end of the show. But first, she's joining me to talk about gender and sexuality because she has a personal connection to this topic. So please give big smooches to my friend, Carol Allen.
Thanks, Damona. So great to be here. And of course, gender identity and gender orientation is also in the stars.
It's in the stars. You know so much, girlfriend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and it's the one thing you can't tell from an astrology chart, actually. So you can look at the chart of someone, you can know what kind of health they'll have, personality, talents, if their mother will die on them, you know, what arm they'll break, but you cannot tell gender.
Interesting.
But you can't. And what's wild and what blew me away when I started studying astrology was just like in French and Spanish, everything is put in categories of either masculine or feminine.
Right.
So every sign is either masculine or feminine, and every planet and the sun and the moon are classified as either masculine or feminine. And so if you have masculine signs dominating in your chart, but you were born and you identify as a female, you will be, you know, more quote unquote masculine. You'll be like proactive, pursuing things, making things happen, straightforward, blunt, direct, go, go, go. Whereas if you have more feminine signs, you'll be more, you know, passive and feminine and girly and all that stuff. And so this is totally separate from the body.
Oh my gosh, I think I know what I have a lot in my chart. But you also have a personal
girlfriend.
Right? You also
but
have
we're cute, so it all works out.
We're doing okay in the long run. But you have a personal connection to this topic as well.
I have a beloved soulmate family member who's a young person who gave me the I'm a lesbian speech at 11. First person ever gave me the speech. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting the speech.
There's a speech.
I was the first person that, at the time, it was a she that she came out to. And then a year later, she had a girlfriend. And then a year after that, she had a boyfriend. And we were like, huh. Then a year after that, she told us all that she was a boy. And then, of course, he became a boy. And he's now transitioned fully. He takes testosterone. He has a beard. You go through puberty again when you transition. So the poor kid got a whole nother round of puberty and went into menopause. Okay, so
oh my gosh,
I got such an education. So started as female, became male. You have to shut down the female systems, right? So testosterone throws you into menopause. So it's a really big decision, obviously, and he can never have children, even if he changes his mind. And naturally, I mean biologically, of course he can have children.
Of course.
And what's been so beautiful about watching his journey is at the very same time, the world really changed, right? So the Supreme Court made same-sex marriage legal. So many policies changed. And I got to watch all of that through his eyes and through loving him and through, recognizing and realizing just how many people have lived in the shadows, have lived such sad lives where they were shunned or excommunicated from their families and their communities, and how it's so late and it's so high time. And now we're finding out, it's like the society's been holding down a beach ball. It's like blown through the sky now, right?
I know, but they keep trying to bat the beach ball down.
Well, and it's
we're gonna let the beach ball out
crazy
today
again, of course, politically. But it's just so amazing that like the numbers now and how it's
right.
and how we're seeing it everywhere. And that is not because of the internet. That's because that's how many people people were stifling it and buttoning it
Or
down
told that it was
before.
wrong and they couldn't.
Right. And so it's so lucky we live in a truly free society now. It's very exciting.
Well, this is an exciting topic and an exciting show. And we have also a number of headlines to cover, including divorce rates. They're going down. And we'll tell you the surprising reason why.
Whoop, whoop.
Plus, what you can learn about dating from the next generation, according to Zeus. And your favorite childhood figures have a new relationship status. We'll tell you what it is and who it is in a moment. And then we will answer your questions, including, is it normal to be dating multiple people online? And how can you tell if they're really too busy or if they're just blowing you off for the second date?
If you have to ask, they're blowing you off. Sorry.
You're getting way ahead of us, Carol. We have to start the dish.
Dee's dating dish.
People are always saying millennials are just ruining everything. They're running amok of our society. There's one more thing that millennials have ruined, but it's not such a bad thing because it's divorce. There was a study that came out about divorce in the U.S. It turns out everybody's like, oh, divorce rates are skyrocketing. Divorce rates are skyrocketing. Actually, not true. The U.S. divorce rate has dropped 18%, Carol, between 2008 and 2017.
That's incredible.
It's incredible, but it's also interesting when we break it down by age because it's not the baby boomers who are driving the divorce rate down. It's actually the millennials. And so when we
But
look
don't
at
they also get married a lot later now?
well,
Isn't that part of it
see,
too?
You know the things,
So
Carol.
they're not idiots. They don't get married at 24 like a lot of us did.
Yeah, so we're looking at this Time article. Some of the reasons that they cited are millennials spending longer to choose a mate.
Nice.
So once they picked somebody, they're like, well, I might as well just stick with them now. I mean, at this point. Also, the cost of getting married.
Well, that's what I was wondering because, man, it's so crazy expensive what's happened in one generation to housing, to college,
you
to
gotta
student loans,
live
to
together
healthcare.
before marriage.
They can't
even.
afford to get divorced, Damona. All those old people you referenced initially, they can afford it.
Exactly, and they're still doing it. The divorce rate actually doubled for Americans 55 to 64, and for Americans 65 and older, it tripled. So while it's going up with the baby boomers, we can actually look to the millennials and say maybe they're holding up the foundation of the American marriage.
Well, you know what I hope it means too? I think because they have less pressure to marry, it's not as you have to and you have to go to college to get your MRS degree or you'll be shunned by society like older people.
Right.
I think maybe they're making more authentic choices and those relationships will last more.
Well, thank you, millennials, for helping us believe in love again. Speaking of believing in love again, we'll go a generation down from millennials to Gen Z daters. So these are the folks that are 22 and under.
Oh.
And it turns out there's
I didn't
some
even know about
things-
them.
Yeah, they're there. They're there. And some of them are on Zeus. And Zeus came out with the statistics on how Gen Z daters are dating differently than older daters. And it turns out Gen Zers, they're a little bit less picky than the older daters. They say yes to 33% of potential matches they're presented with. So they're swiping right 1 out of every 3 times.
That's insane.
I know. I'm sure as a dating coach and astrology love coach, you
do not
probably
run
see
into that.
a lot of your clients are like, left swipe, left
They're
swipe.
like, I don't like his shirt. Oh my God, his hair. Oh my God, he's with a dog. I hate dogs. I'm like, okay, are you going to die alone? Are you all by yourself
Swipe
without
right
a
for
dog
once.
with like the right shirts and the right hair? Like, good golly, people.
Yeah, I've always advocated for people saying yes more often, especially in that swipe phase. What do you really know?
Nothing.
What do you...
Well, I will
Right.
tell you, it's so funny because I've been married a million years, right? So a friend of
million.
mine,
21.
21 last month.
Happy
Woohoo!
anniversary.
Thank you. He's still adorable. I'm still
He
lucky.
is adorable. You're
So-
adorable together.
Thank you. So a friend handed me her cell phone one night and said, do Tinder for me. Okay. And I was like, oh, this is a great opportunity to see what my clients go through. Right. So swear to God, if I had said yes to every third person for her, so many men were shirtless. So many people were threesomes, a couple looking for a third.
True.
I was like, wow. So there was a guy lying on the ground with his chicken. Okay. Topless with his chicken.
A live chicken or like a
live
fried chicken?
No, a live chicken. It was his good friend. Listen, I have nothing against that, right? But they were looking for a third also. I mean, it was like
the chicken?
Insane, Damona.
He was trying to find a chicken mate.
So insane.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, I'm never getting divorced. I mean, this is why millennials are not getting divorced, because they were internet dating like crazy, because they're young and they know how to use all this technology, right? And they're open to it. And once they marry, they're like, I'm never going back out there.
I mean, I don't blame her for swiping left on the chicken threesome. I mean, that may be a step.
I wrote a blog post about it. I just went on and on and on. And then at the bottom, I said, no chickens were harmed in the writing of this blog.
I can't believe I missed that one. I'll have to go back.
Yeah, I was kind of proud. But anyway.
But in general,
yes.
older daters do tend to be
too picky,
more
superficial,
discerning.
You know
and
what
they
else?
Also,
everybody thinks like they can place their order with the universe. I run into this all the time in my line of work.
Sure.
And they're holding out for like the exact perfect thing they want. The tall guy with 6 figures and all his hair and who's never been married, right? And like
no
is debt free, huge house.
Right.
Loves your mother. Can't wait to meet your 3 cats, right? They think they're going to meet that guy. So they're swiping no on everybody but that. And they're still single.
They're still single. And beyond that, there's a lot of people that are out there just trying to get some free dinners too.
Sure.
and putting
and
a lot of
other things.
Okay. But putting a lot of expectation on the first date. So it turns out Gen Z daters are also more likely to just do a coffee date and
smart.
Just a kind of pre-date and see, like, not put so much pressure on the outcome
stride, right.
of what this date is going to mean.
Well, I was making fun. I actually work with so many lovely middle-aged women who just get really hurt by internet dating. They're not too picky. They really try. They really show up for it. But to your point, they do put too much pressure on it. And they take all the rejection way too hard. I mean, internet dating is so fraught with rejection. If you can't handle rejection, then it's not for you. Don't do it, right?
But it's also, at what point do you get invested in it? If you're just swiping and you don't get a match, or if you send one message and he doesn't respond, if you read that as a rejection,
which people do,
you're going to be terribly disappointed and overwhelmed and frustrated and
exhausted.
And exhausted.
Right.
But you have to really look at the dating app as just a tool that's getting you to the further stages in the relationship.
Right. And what I always say to people is, that's a stranger. Who even cares? Why are you giving your power to a stranger? Why are you going to give up on your dream because of a few bozos? Right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, I don't have a story about bozo, but I do have a story about another beloved childhood figure, actually 2 beloved childhood figures who are always together. Yes, I'm talking about Bert and Ernie from Sesame Street. This story initially hit a couple of weeks ago, but it's like people keep adding their voices to the mix, and the plot is continuing to thicken. So you may have heard that one of the writers, Mark Saltzman, who's written Sesame Street and wrote for Bert and Ernie, said that he always felt that Bert and Ernie were a couple. And first, the internet didn't like it. Then secondly, Sesame Workshop, who produces Sesame Street, they didn't like it either. And they said, Bert and Ernie are best friends. They were created to teach preschoolers that people can be good friends with those who are different from themselves. Even though they are identified as male characters and possess many human traits and characteristics, as most Sesame Street Muppets do, they remain puppets and do not have a sexual orientation.
Yeah, I mean, what's up with Animal? They should have Animal over. That could be some fun, right? Who's the topper? Bert? Is it Bert?
Doesn't Animal have a chicken? I know, okay. Anyways, I feel like this is a real missed opportunity for Sesame Street and I feel like there's just so much pressure to like not say the wrong thing or offend someone or step on someone's toes that I feel like they missed their entire mission, which is about educating people about different lifestyles, letting people see that they can be accepted even if they're different from someone else, and beginning the conversation even at that young age. And I feel like it's gone way too far. Like a lot of the people that are commenting on it are like, well, I don't want to think about these puppets having sex. And I'm like, this is not about the puppets having sex. This is about showing a model of a successful relationship that's lasted. How long has Sesame Street been on? 50 years. You think you've been married a long time. But showing a successful relationship model and teaching these kids that there's nothing wrong with these two men that want to live together and wear maybe the turtleneck shirts are
well,
bad choice,
I mean,
but-
I don't know. Listen, I'm the biggest bleeding heart libertine liberal there is, and I'm, a total advocate, and I donate to Trevor every month, and I go to fundraisers, and I go to support groups with my trans person in my family, blah, 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 blah. Sesame Street is all about learning the alphabet and learning, you're totally right. And it's hard. It's like you do so many things right, but if you don't do everything right, you just are under attack. I love Sesame Street so much. I have so many sweet memories. I just think little kids, I watched it when I was 2. I wasn't thinking about anything. So yes. I think everything should be open now and everything should be inclusive. And we need to normalize all of it because it's all normal. Right. And at the same time, I don't think they should be lambasted and hated for it. I'm just saying.
I just think that they didn't need to jump in and draw a line in the sand and say, oh, it's not even no, Mark Saltzman is wrong, even though he's writing these characters. And it's also based on his own experience. He has a partner named Arnie, not Ernie. But
you're in showbiz, honey. And when you're not the owner of the content, when you're just a writer, when you're a screenwriter, they can kill off your hero. They can cut your script in half.
And he chose to write this character from the point of view of write these characters from the point of view of being gay.
Right.
And I think it can be a thing without it having to be a thing.
Why did it come out now? That's so interesting. If it is 50 years in, why are they finally telling us this?
Mark Saltzman just had to speak his truth. So I have a couple of people in studio who are going to speak their truth.
Yeah, I want to hear what they
today. I want to hear what they have to say as well. So let me introduce my panel for today. Jasmine Luna is your average queer, transgender, Latinx witch. She's also a strong advocate for her queer community, and she works with the Trevor Project and the Los Angeles LGBT Center. So please give big smooches to Jasmine Luna.
Hello, thank you.
Hello. And Harry Caldwell the fourth. He's a jewelry designer, yoga instructor, and tantra instructor. He's identified as pansexual for the last 15 plus years, and he feels compelled to share his knowledge of the energy of love with everyone he encounters in order to reduce the amount of suffering in the world. Thank you for being here, Harry.
Thank you for having me.
Blast from the past, because I went to high school with Harry. Can I say that? Well, I already said it, so there we go. There we go. So yes, you've changed a little bit since high school, and you've been through a marriage and a divorce. So talk to me. First of all, I just want to put it all out on the table and educate people, because they might not know about the different variations, options available to them in sexuality and gender. So you identify as pansexual. Can you please define that for everyone listening?
Pansexuality for me is interchangeable with omnisexuality and to a degree bisexuality as well. Effectively, I'm attracted to those individuals of my gender and of other genders. For me, I realized the term pansexual applied best simply because, looking back at my relationships, most of the significant relationships I've been in were I was married for 10 years. My partner transitioned from female to male 4 years into our marriage. And so 6 years of holding space for him to come out into the world was an amazing experience. And, I came to the realization that gender for me really didn't matter. It was the soul of the person that really made the difference for me.
Wow. Okay. I want to hear a little bit more about that a little later in the show, but I also want to hear about Jasmine's experience. So, Jasmine.
Yes.
Your average queer transgender Latinx witch.
It's a lot, right?
Let's put the witch part aside.
That's a whole
That's a different show.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
So you've actually transitioned fairly recently in the last year and a half.
Yeah.
Talk to us about that decision process, and you've also been in a relationship for 8 years. with a woman who identifies now as lesbian, right?
No, we're both pretty much pan at this point.
So now you're pan.
We're all pan.
Everybody's pan.
We're all pans.
Maybe by the end of the show, Carol and I will be pan too.
We'll teach you how. It's
Okay,
easy.
well, so tell me about this whole process and what it was like also transitioning within a relationship.
Okay. Well, I guess to start off really fast, if you haven't met a trans person before out there, it means a lot to a lot of different versions of us.
Sure.
Like, it's not one thing. As a trans woman, for me, it means that my outsides don't match my insides. So, like, I have the heart, mind, and spirit of a woman in the body of a man, and that's what transitioning is correcting all that, fixing and adjusting it. Chronologically, I knew since I was a little girl. My mom supported it, but my dad didn't. And it got so bad, we were arguing. I didn't know why. I just knew it was me. That I kind of gave in to my dad, and I was like, no, I'm kidding. It's a joke. I'll stop. And then started crafting this, like, kind of like unconsciously, like what everyone else wanted of me. And through trauma and stuff, I kind of locked all that away and forgot about it. But it kept popping up, and I didn't understand why. A couple years after moving to LA with my partner, it started resurging, and it started coming out in drag. And then after a while, it was like, this is not just dress up. Like, and I had to start exploring the billions of gender options, because there are hundreds and hundreds, because there are different ways everyone feels. So once I realized I was, actually a female, I decided that for me personally, I want to start the process of transitioning. And for me, that meant name change, hormones, like basically starting over from scratch. So
How did that affect your relationship? Because when you were initially together, were you identifying as male?
I was trying. I was trying real hard.
And your partner
Was so at the time
had a different. Tell me.
Yeah, okay. So at the time, I was trying to be a cis straight male, and they were trying to be a cis straight female, and that never worked. And now we kind of know why we had issues sometimes of like, why are we yelling at each other? Like, I don't know, dress like this. And
Quit borrowing my bra.
Okay, and I just noticed also the pronoun that your partner chooses is they.
yeah, they kind of use they right now. So
Okay,
just honor
right
that.
now.
Yeah,
It's fluid.
everything's fluid.
Okay.
And that one, people that are not familiar with this world, that one's a complete new idea, by the way, to say they or all. In fact, in the second Zoolander movie, there was a model character played by Benjamin Cumberbatch that was named All, and it was sort of it was like a fluid gender, multi-gender character named All. And now looking at the world through the eyes of this family member, I was upset about it actually, because they were making fun.
Yeah, it was a joke. It
And
wasn't
when you
supportive.
watch SNL, you see how much we make fun of gay people, and it's like cheap shots. It's like dick jokes, It's like easy humor, and it's actually upsetting. Anyway, sorry to jump in.
that's totally
but-
true.
Totally relevant too. I'm a little confused though by the they pronoun, because then I don't know if you're talking
I
about.
also say us
Singular,
and
plural.
we.
Yeah, I'm like, is there another person? Is there a chicken?
No, it's confusing. Yeah, because they do say
one
us
person.
and we.
Yeah, it's actually kind of simple too. Like sometimes, or we always used to use it when we didn't know the gender of someone. Like if you said,
They
look at
are-
that person parachuting. Wow, they're going really fast. You don't realize you're doing it.
Got it.
But people prefer it if you're gender fluid or gender nonconforming. If you don't feel like you have a gender, then he or she doesn't fit. So most people use they, but some use Z and other things. So
But they also say like we and us too, don't they?
I don't really hear that too often. But some people, if you're
Because
comfortable
I get
with
the
that,
they part. It was when I heard somebody say we and us. I was like, oh my God, my head just blew off. Like,
Yeah,
what do I do
there's-
with that? Because you're
there's all
afraid
kinds
as
of
somebody not in that world, you're afraid you're gonna offend or you're gonna misstep. You're gonna say the wrong thing.
And furthermore, you also identify as Latinx, and so this is also an adaptation of. Carol was talking at the beginning about how in Spanish it's Latino, Latina, but now there's a new
Oh, that's a great
word
idea.
to identify.
you put an X at the end of it. It's sort of like a movement to de-gender language, especially for Latinos and Latinas. Like putting an X in certain things doesn't make it a certain way. Every word in Spanish.
But what about your window and your table?
They don't have to be boys or girls. They're just table.
I mean, David
Carol.
Sedaris writes a whole chapter about moving to Paris and how he could not master saying anything singular in French because he could not remember if it was masculine or feminine. So he ends up buying 2 of everything, like 2 zucchini, 2 laptops. Like he just cannot say it. It's hysterical.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because several of friends in my circle identify as twin spirits, where they firmly believe that there's a feminine and a masculine presence within them. So the they, them pronoun choice is a very real element of acknowledging the duality.
This sounds like some Tantra stuff here.
That's also Jungian.
Spiritual.
Yes. Well, in the Tantra world, we do definitely have a this element of unifying the masculine and feminine within each of us. There's, in fact, that's the entire. In a lot of ways, that's the purpose of the practice, is to unify those 2 energetic aspects. In fact, when I talk about sharing the energy of love, one of the practices we do is actually creating a love circuit where you'll take your right hand, which traditionally is the masculine hand, the projecting hand, if you will, and the left hand being the receiving hand. And by holding your hands on either side of someone's heart, you can feel your love through their heart and create this loving circuit of energy. And it can be an amazing meditation practice and even a getting to know you practice.
So as you are out there in the world dating, here dating in LA, you've lived in a few cities though.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I lived in Seattle, Denver, and most recently Los Angeles.
So we're at a time now, as Carol said at the beginning, where understanding and acceptance is changing. Have you had a different experience dating here in Los Angeles than you did when you were in other cities?
Well, I actually had a real fear of dating for a very long time. I would simply, my dating method was really just become friends with folks, and if something developed, to move forward with that.
That's very millennial of you.
And recently it's been, I've been a little more outgoing in that regard, but still it's very much, I want to find a connection with folks before establishing that we're even dating. So,
and are you using dating apps or any other?
I've never really used dating apps. I've been tempted recently, but it's still, I don't know, bringing technology into the mix has never felt fully comfortable for me.
Is there a part of it where I feel like on dating apps, you're sort of forced to identify in a certain way so that they can match you and so that people know what category to put you in? Is there any element of that being something you don't want to be part of the dating process?
I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm averse to it. I guess it's more just that, the element of like hookup culture for me has never really been appealing. I tend to, like I said, I wanted a deeper connection with folks before moving into anything romantic. And so
I'm really glad you said that, Harry, because I feel like there are people that might be listening who have this belief that because you're pansexual that you just want to have sex with everybody.
Anything goes, yeah.
Right?
That is a very
and that's not the
common
case.
thing.
And
No,
you're a
and-
Tantra instructor, so
now the thing is that,
Clearly he's busy.
and I love sex just as much as anyone else does. However, for me, what Tantra really did for me was open me up to the concept that there's more than one way to make love. Traditionally that's just as an element of sex or intercourse. But quite frankly, when you boil it down, the connection you share with someone sitting watching a movie holding their hand, that can be an act of making love. It can be a deep, intimate connection. And for some folks, that's all they need. I've got several friends of mine who are asexual and don't really feel like they have necessarily a sexual drive. They just want connection. And for several of them, just holding space, sitting, cuddling, watching a movie, that might be the ultimate for them. And to be able to show up authentically and really immerse myself into that moment and accept that that is a loving moment and it doesn't need to go anywhere is a very empowering thing. I think it opens up the opportunity to love far more people genuinely, without having to hold on to these expectations that needs to go, beyond the couch and into the bedroom.
Right. Jasmine, when you transitioned or when you were in the process of transitioning, how did that affect your relationship on that level, that intimate level? And in a way, as you're transitioning, and I want to hear also about your ex transitioning, Harry, but as you're transitioning, your partner in a way has to go through some sort of a transition and a redefining of what they are as well.
Yeah, I kind of think about it sometimes. It's like when two people are playing poker, you know, and then it's kind of like I'm all in. Like, all right, let's do this. Let's see what you have. My partner, it was awkward. You know, transitions are awkward and weird, especially when two people think they're straight, because my partner was kind of like, I don't date women. I don't know what I'm going to do, you know. So we had to see where this ended up. But afterwards, my partner told me, it wasn't you transitioning that made me uncomfortable. It was the fact that I was comfortable with it. So they were kind of like, why am I more attracted to you now? Why do I like this more? And I sort of had to push their hand of like, they had to realize they had feelings they've been fighting all along their whole lives. I've read a lot of articles and things about queer couples that get together, especially if one is trans, and they stay together not because they have to or they need to or they're scared, but because they still fall in love again, or the other person is actually also queer. And in a weird way, you magnetically combine without knowing. Your spirits just kind of feel each other.
Wow.
And so a lot of times queer couples come out together, whether it's sex or gender.
Well, I noticed that both of your relationships continued after one or, you know, your partner transitioned. And that's not always the case.
No, it's
of
not.
course.
And you don't have to. There's a pressure of like, I feel bad if I leave my partner. But if you're not attracted to someone, it's okay to say, hi, I'm not attracted to you, you know, whether that's emotionally or physically. I think for me, when I transitioned, I became a way better person because I wasn't hiding things, fighting things, being just generally upset and not knowing why. I've calmed down. I've smoothed out a lot. And I think that makes me more attractive, too, of, oh, you're like a great person now. Not that I was a bad person before, but yeah,
But
everything changed
you were
in my
battling
sense.
yourself.
I wasn't
and-
myself,
yeah.
you know, so.
Well, the depression in the trans community is so high. I mean, 50% commit suicide.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
attempt even.
like talk about the truth. And it's not just because of society's, you know, unwelcoming attitudes sometimes. It's because it's very hard to live in a body that doesn't feel like yours and to look in the mirror and not see who you think you should see. And it's extremely painful. The family member that I have was so much happier after transitioning. And that's basically what you're saying.
Yeah, like
I'm
it
so
was the right
glad
choice.
for you. Because I think a lot of people, you know, there was a doctor that came out and was like, oh, I was all for it. And then I worked with a bunch of people and none of them were happier. And you know, it's dangerous. We have to be careful of people's agendas. And is that really true? And I'm very happy for you.
And that's why
Right.
you're both involved with the Trevor Project,
Right.
And one of that major tenet of the Trevor Project is also to
Suicide prevention.
help.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a 24-hour crisis line for
Right.
youth.
And they're saving lives. I mean, a lot of people are thrown from their homes. A lot of young people kicked out, told by mom and dad, "You're not our son. You're not our daughter. You're not our child." A lot of churches, of course, turn their backs. I mean, they're shamed. They're told they're going to hell. I mean, it's awful. It's awful. And then in 29 states, they can be fired. And, you know, current things politically are terrifying.
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, it's glad that you do that work to advocate for the community.
Yeah.
I want to go back to you, Harry, and talk about that process for you of your partner transitioning and how you came to terms with, you were already identifying as pansexual. How did that transition work for you or not work? I mean, I know you're not together now. How was that an element of the breakup?
No, actually, that was actually one of the easier bits of our relationship was recognizing that. In truth, when my partner transitioned, they became their true self, and there was a level of comfort in their body that they hadn't had prior. And so on that level, I could see they were happier. The transition was difficult because of family and religious issues and so forth that, made that more of a
And
process
menopause
for
and
them.
puberty at the same time.
That sounds horrible.
It's the worst.
Well,
Sorry,
and I have to say, from my perspective, it was really, my partner was already fairly androgynous to begin with. And so the transition wasn't a major one aside from, few of our, there was pronoun shifts. There were some challenges in the bedroom, but not much. I mean, we really had a very fluid transition in that regard. The most challenging bit was actually coming out to family. Once they transitioned and came out to their family, I felt comfortable expressing it to mine. some of the very first people I told, this was after our divorce, that this full coming out occurred for my family anyway. And they initially said, "Oh, well, now we understand why you got a divorce." And I'm like, "Did you not hear the story? Like, this happened 6 years ago. This is nothing new." But
Wow.
they weren't openly identifying to either of their family or mine until after we got a divorce, and that was really just a matter of the timing being right for them to fully come out.
At what point do you feel like you understood your sexuality, or is this something that you feel like is still potentially?
I've always felt a sense of fluidity. I remember at like 7 years old, finding a a pair of legs pantyhose and deciding to put them on just because it would be fun. And I loved the sensation. Loved it so much that I decided to watch cartoons, Saturday morning.
I hate the sensation of pantyhose. I will give you all of my pantyhose,
I would
Harry.
have said no to Prince Harry because of pantyhose.
Yeah, but I mean, you can look at my childhood photos. There's always, a goofy little, my head's cocked to the side, a goofy little smile. There's always something a little
I've
extra
known you a
going
long
on there.
time, Harry.
She has the yearbooks.
I have the yearbooks. No, but I mean, I think at that point, I don't know that anyone was looking to put people in a box. I mean, I do remember people who were, I think, more visibly.
Sure, we had folks in our high school
Out.
that were out. And
Yeah.
I would talk to them and say, well, I'm kind of on the fence. I'm not really sure. And, the term bisexual at that point, and a lot of folks, it was like, well, either you're gay, straight, or you're greedy.
That's great.
So which one are you?
Or you're drunk.
Or you're drunk.
Or you're drunk.
Yeah, so it
We're all
was
a little bi when
it was challenging. It was challenging. So, and I faced a lot of folks, that constantly being, harassed and called names was a regular part of my high school career. And I went through a bit of a sexual identity crisis my junior and senior year, and honestly didn't know where it was going. Didn't get the support I needed from my family, didn't get the support I needed from really many friends either. And so it just kind of stayed bottled up until my later years.
Well, and this is such a high level conversation. I think we should remind the listeners, for those of them that don't know, that your identity and your sexuality are two completely independent things.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
you can identify as a man and, want to sleep with women or want to sleep with men. It's like, or want to sleep with both. It's
Well, it's funny
separate.
because on the sexuality aspect of it, I don't think that was as big of a thing for my family to wrap their head around as the gender identity element. My
Right.
showing up with makeup on, for instance, has only really been a recent thing, and that has people get visibly challenged by that.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
And you said you predominantly date women. So how do women react? I mean, I know you said you're not doing dating apps, but if you're attracted to a woman and you approach her, do you find that women that you want to date react? Have you ever had an unexpected reaction to the makeup?
I had a reaction actually to a former partner who I dated several years ago. When I first started, I started wearing makeup just this last summer, actually, fairly more regularly, just because I felt called to put together a drag persona. I wanted to express my ultimate feminine. On another level, I'm also working to express my ultimate masculine as well. And I found that
tantric.
that setting up personas has made that a lot easier.
Personas. Talk us through that.
Well, for instance, a persona that I recently went through at a workshop in Costa Rica was very focused on bringing out the warrior persona, bringing out the aggressive, the getting in touch with my rage and my anger, and really diving in deep to what it meant to be a masculine warrior. I had always feared that growing up. I have a lot of trust issues with men because, there was a lot of aggressive men that I was around that I couldn't stand how they treated women. I couldn't stand how they treated their friends. And I was very averse to that. And in a lot of ways tamped that down in myself. And so when I started, exploring this drag persona, I started, ordered some makeup, took a few photos, threw them on Facebook, and former partner said, I'm actually happy we broke up because I don't think I could have handled that. And so, it was well received, but it's one of those things that, I never really know how someone's going to react. And so, I just, again, it's very fluid just to see, well, when can I interject this? When are they going to find out this aspect of me? And, sometimes I do that very carefully, and other times it's just like, I don't care. It's all out.
Well,
And-
yeah.
And we'll see.
And I think also with social media, like you've started posting pictures of how you want to look. And so people are going to see that. And I think now the social media presence is a part of, it's part of your dating profile. It's a part of
Right.
Absolutely.
your identity in a way.
Right.
So the one thing I have to also bring into the conversation is both of you are people of color as well. So, Jasmine, do you feel like that had any that had an impact on your decision, being from a Latinx background?
Yeah, so Catholic.
It's hard because I'm a mixed kid. So my whole life I've always been in the middle. I'm not quite Latina enough for the
This
for my
whole
culture.
side of the table.
Oh,
There
so
you
we
go.
all know.
Sorry, Carol.
I'm so boring. I'm so bummed.
Yeah, like
We like you though, still.
Oh, wow.
it's actually funny. Transitioning has helped me get closer to my the Latina part of myself because there's a big queer culture of Latinx people
awesome.
that kind of take from the culture that they've been kind of pushed out of, or the different areas or aspects they've been pushed out of, and they take some of those traditions and then build them up from the ancestors and the old days and things. And it's helped me kind of find a new place because even though the mainstream thing may not have you in it anymore, that doesn't mean you can't participate in your own way and make your own home with your own traditions and values and ideas, because genetically that's who I am. I don't want to ignore it or pretend like it didn't happen. So yeah, I've actually been pursuing it more too, which is really cool.
Anything to add on that, Harry?
That element of riding the fence, being in the middle, I felt like I've lived a constant dichotomy in my life. Never black enough, never white enough, never male enough, never female enough. It was, I kind of felt like I was always riding the middle. So now I just feel confident in saying, I'm a bit of all these things.
Wonderful. Any last words, Jasmine, that you'd like to share with the audience, and what you wish they knew or understood about being a trans female, or about dating in today's world, or about even just understanding about Bert and Ernie?
How many hours do I have?
About 30 seconds.
30 seconds. Okay. I don't know. People are so intense on labels. Labels are important for you, but the idea of gender, sexuality, a lot of it's fluid. A lot of it's a spectrum. It's not one way or the other. I mean, for me, I'm just female. I'm working on that, but my sexuality moves. There's no need to align yourself with something because you have to. You don't have to say you're anything. You can just be yourself and figure that out part later. So,
What about for you, Harry?
I would just say that, we're all human. I'm attracted to human beings. And in the end of the day, some days it's fluid. It's going to move one direction to the other, and I expect it's going to change over the years even more dynamically. But just have confidence in who you are, and just know that you're perfect just as you are.
I love that message. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, there's still more show to be had. We're going to be addressing your questions of the week. And also, we have a love cast from astrologer and love expert Carol Allen right after this. Do you wish you knew your relationship future? Wondering where your soulmate might be? You can get some help from the other side. And as many of you know, I'm a big believer in the power of psychics and mediums to shine light on your life path. And now you can get personalized advice from a psychic who's just a phone call away. At asknow.com, you can find your future and get the answers to what puzzles you about love. You will call this special number and get a psychic reading any time of day, 877-626-1034. And to get your first reading, you can just reach out to them toll free anytime. Again, the number is 877-626-1034. I'd like to thank all of our Dates and Mates subscribers. Our free monthly call is coming up next week, and we want all of our Dates and Mates listeners to be able to join me live for personalized dating and relationship advice. To get in my community of love, you just go to datesandmates.com and choose the free e-course that matches what you're looking for. The 7-day relationship boot camp if you're coupled up, or the texting 10 commandments for singles who need to learn the new rules of flirting over text. All of that is there for you and free at datesandmates.com. All right, now it's time to answer your questions. I'm still here with Carol Allen of loveisinthestars.com and also Harry Caldwell and Jasmine Luna. So roll up your sleeves. We're going to give some advice from all of our perspectives.
Favorites.
All right. This person says, I met a guy online. He's spending some time with other people he has met, and it's an obvious source of jealousy for me since I never experienced someone who talks to more than one person before being exclusive. I would like to work on changing my views on relationships and be more open to the idea of seeing multiple people while not feeling like I'm a backup or not good enough to be the only person they talk to. I don't want to ruin things, but things might have already been ruined because I am not used to what is going on. Carol Allen, is it okay for this person, this person's partner, to be dating multiple people? How can she express what she needs? Is she demanding too much?
You know, everybody has to be self-defined, right? You have to figure out for yourself what you want and what works for you. And what I like about the question is they're open and they want to actually broaden their definitions of what's okay and what's not okay. So it's really about moment to moment being in touch with yourself and being in touch with your own inner wisdom. If you're really clear and you're really on like a marriage-minded path and you really want someone else on a marriage-minded path, it's really great to ask those questions up front. Like, it's really great to kind of screen people and figure out and to own your dream. Because what I find people do is they get hurt having dreams and they start watering down their dream and watering down their dream.
Right.
And then they lower and lower their standards. So it's interesting because it was a little bit split, that question.
Yeah.
On the one hand, the person's like super jealous, doesn't like it, but on the other hand, wants to open up. So I think they need to be a little more self-defined, and I would want to know a little more about that person. Are they really wanting children? Are they wanting to get married? Or are they 50 and divorced? Like, where are they?
Yeah.
The thing about relationships.
She's probably Gen Z.
Okay.
You know, it's just come as you are.
Short-term fun relationships should last as long as they're fun, and serious relationships, you got to find out, like in the first month, you have the same goals.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's okay, though, if you're dating online to be dating multiple people up to the point where you're starting to have these questions. But I don't think it's selfish to want.
And what I like is it sounds like
exclusivity.
the person's being honest. I think everyone needs to be honest about where they are and what they want.
The
and
question
what they're
is,
doing.
is their partner going to be as honest as they are? Anything to add on that one? We have one more question, too.
I feel like a lot of people have that programming of like, get married, have babies as soon as possible without figuring things out, meeting new people. And it's important, like you said, to know what you want, and that could change too. But if you probably know, like, I want to get married, I want to have kids, projecting that onto someone else isn't going to help.
Yeah.
Because you might be like, you should have kids, you should have a baby. Why don't you want to have a baby with me? And be honest about what the other person's needs are, because maybe they don't match up. Or maybe they do partially, and that's a different relationship too.
I like that advice. Harry, I'm going to ask you our second question. This person says, I went on a first date with someone 2 weeks ago, and we had planned on having a second date this weekend. She had dental surgery last weekend and is still recovering. So when I brought up the topic of where to go this weekend, she asked to hold off on any plans to see how she felt first. I have people inviting me to different events this weekend, though, and I'm not really liking having to stall in them just to see what the date decides to do first. Should I consider this date a lower priority since I made an attempt and just focus on the other plans with friends?
Well, you got to be real with what's presented to you, and if the person you're dating has some hesitation, then, in my opinion, if it's not a total yes, then it's a no. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I look at rejection as, quite a liberating element. And to be fair, if this person just needs more time, then so be it.
Dental surgery is no joke.
Yeah,
So
I would be patient.
I think we're really quick to just make it about something we did or judge ourselves when we have something it's an unmet expectation. Like he's expecting that she wants to go out again, and then she's like, that's dental surgery. Like, just take the pressure off of it.
It's
I
also
think.
the way we try to be in control and feel safe.
Well, I would also add, you mentioned the word expectation. And one of the things that I've tried very hard in the last several years is to replace my expectations with intentions. Expectations in a lot of ways for me are simply, what's the word here? They are they're preconceived disappointments in a lot of ways.
Right.
We're setting ourselves up for failure. If I expect all of these things to happen on a date and even one of them doesn't, I can label that as a failure.
I think it was Anne Lamott that said, expectations are just disappointments waiting to happen,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So you're right on
And
that.
if you go into it with
Love
the
it.
intention of just being open to whatever shows up and being happy with that, then you're far more likely to have a successful event rather than setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, the
love
most
that.
important emotion you need when dating is curiosity.
I love that. Okay, so as we have expectations, we want to know what's coming. Carol Allen, we have an astrologer who can forecast what is in the fall stars for us. So we have like a minute left in the
Okay.
show. Can you give us the scoop?
Yes. So the very, very good news is that I'm a Vedic astrologer, and so we calculate things a little differently. So Venus, the planet of love, is in one of its favorite, most powerful signs until January 2nd. It's in the sign of Libra, the sign of partnership. Now it goes retrograde on Friday. So for 5 weeks until November 16th, everyone's going to have a lot of opportunity to look at their issues around love and relationships and things from the past coming back to be worked on. But it's a beautiful time to deepen your commitment to your dreams and to yourself, and then to take really awesome action after November 16th to go get it. And I love your free offerings, Damona. You guys, everyone, those sound brilliant. This is Venus retrograde is the perfect time to dive into something like that. And I think October is going to be mostly a really nice month because Venus and Mercury are together, which is like a good news combo. And then in November into December, mid-November to mid-December-ish, Mercury goes retrograde. So Thanksgiving, you're going to have to sit there with your relatives on the other side of the political spectrum. And I'm kidding, of course. But anyway, you might have
No,
an
it's very
interesting
real
Thanksgiving.
for a
Yeah,
lot
no
of people.
kidding. Mars, the planet of aggression, has been exalted since May, and it's been very intense and very, tumultuous, which is part of why everything's so like
Mars
"Arr."
messed me up.
Oh, it's been too much. It's been too much. It's why we're all on our last nerve, and that shifts November 5th. Oh, gee, what happens November 6th? I'm just saying.
All right, you heard it here. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Also, Carol has so many different programs and reports and tools that you can use on her website, loveisinthestars.com. But we have a special offer just for Dates and Mates listeners. There's going to be a link in the show notes to, you have a compatibility report?
Oh, yeah, baby. So in India, they arrange 90% of their marriages still to this day. And overwhelmingly, you throw out your arm, you hit an astrologer. And if you're marrying a total stranger, you need a guarantee. So they have these thousands of year old techniques for compatibility that are mind-blowingly accurate. So I sell a report, and it's just for your Dates and Mates listeners. It's half off if they go to your link and they type in half off. And for $10, you can find out what's going to happen. Is it a good idea?
We can manage our expectations.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That link will be in the show notes again. Don't forget to put in half off, and you can get half off that compatibility report. Thank you so much, Carol Allen.
Thank you, Damona. So much fun.
Yes, it's always a pleasure to have you here on Dates and Mates. I hope you'll come back for a three-peat sometime
Sorry, I
soon.
disagreed about Bert and Ernie.
No, all opinions are welcome here.
I
So
just love them so much. I can't be mad at them.
I know. It's Sesame Workshop. Okay, we'll put that aside. I also want to thank Jasmine Luna for being here. You have a wonderful blog that people can read and follow your journey at jasmineseclipse.blogspot.com, or they can follow you on Instagram at _witchy_wonder. Thank you for being here, Jasmine.
Thank you so much.
And Harry, I know you have a lot more. You have jewelry, you have tantra, you have yoga, you have so many things to share, and you're on Instagram at Caldwell Crafted.
That's right.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
That's it for episode 232 of Dates and Mates. I hope you will join the community and take advantage of those free e-courses at datesandmates.com. I would love to talk to you on our next free group call for Dates and Mates listeners. And please subscribe to the show so you can get every one of the episodes the minute that they post. And please tell a friend if there's someone that needs this message, if there's someone that could learn from Jasmine or Harry's story, or that needs the information about the Trevor Project, please click share on this episode and help us heal more hearts. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. But until then, I wish you happy dating.